और मोमिनीन गुजारिश है कि तिब्बत का
है
दर्स
इसका
शुरू होने वाला है, तो थोड़ी देर के लिए खामोशी इख्तियार कर लें और फर्श पर तशरीफ रखें ताकि दर्स शुरू हो सके। जज़ाकल्लाह।
डेट तो नहीं है, कल उन्होंने लाइव नहीं चलाया।
उन्होंने तो कहा था चलाएंगे, अनीस साहब ने कहा था। ब मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद बुलंदतर सलावत। बारे दीगर सलावत। मोहम्मद वाले May I request all of you to recite Surah Fatiha for the people, for the marhumeen of the people who have organized this program, and also for your marhumeen and the marhumeen of the Millat Ja'fariyah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alayhim ghayril maghdubi 'alayhim wa lad-dallin. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. Allahumma samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. इमाम ज़माना अलैहिस्सलाम की खुशनूदी के लिए एक मरतबा बुलंदतर सलावत सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम। अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम व बिही नस्तईन इन्नहु खैरुन नासिरिन व मुईन व सल्लल्लाहु अला मुहम्मदिन व आलिहि ताहिरीन व लअनतु दाइमतु अला अअदाइहिम अजमईन मिन अल-आन इला यौमिद्दीन व बाद इलाही इंतिक़नी बिल हुदा व अलहिमनी बित तक़वा सलावत। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद। There's a verse in Surah Az-Zumr, and the verse number is 36, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ يَهْدِيَ اللَّهُ فَمَا لَهُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مُضِلٍّ أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِعَزِيزٍ ذِي انتِقَامٍ. And Allah, whenever He guides someone, it's not possible that someone who's been guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he can, be misguided after that. And if he is misguided after that, then Allah is going to take revenge with that person. Why? Because once someone is guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inna Allah yahdi man yasha. If someone is guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he knows, the person who's guided, what's right, what's wrong. He knows the difference between what's right and what's wrong. And even though he has realized and he has come to understand what's the truth, and still after that he goes and he gets misguided, and that would be only because of the worldly desires. And if he does that, he prefers the world over Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He prefers his own worldly desires. Then Allah says that I will take revenge. And the people who are guided, to them Allah says, الذين ينفقون أموالهم بالليل والنهار سرا وعلانية فلهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and those people who are the righteous one, the pious people, muttaqi, these people, yunfiquna amwaluhum, they give charity to the poor, bil-layl, and now there are four categories: bil-layl, during the night; wan-nahar, during the day; sirro means secretly, when nobody would find out. There's someone who really needs money, but he cannot ask people for the help because it's not the right thing to do, to ask anyone for help. So he doesn't ask anyone. So you secretly go and you give it to him. This is the third category. And then alaniya. Alaniya means openly. Now, what is the difference between all of these last two ones? Once you give it secretly, I've given you the reasons why it is given secretly. Alaniya is like sometimes to encourage others, you give the charity so that you let everyone know, I'm doing it. You also go ahead and do it. For example, that's the box right there for Momineen of Milton. So someone gets up and he says, I'm putting $1,000 in this. So people would be encouraged to put at least $100 or $50, right? They won't put loonies or toonies inside, which some people do. So, and also, like for example, for zakat, there are two kinds of zakat. Zakat, basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are so many verses. وَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. How many times does it come in the Quran? You people must have memorized this verse, right? Atu zakat, give the charity. Now zakat is a title. Everything comes under that. The charity that you do, sadaqat that you give, zakat, which is istilah in the Islamic terminology, the zakat, according to the Shias, which is on the crops, for example, or on the treasure, or for example, on grain, wheat, on a certain, when it reaches a certain quantity, then it becomes wajib to give the zakat, right? And then khums. Khums is also zakat. The 20% that you take out, so zakat itself is a title. Once you see when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا zakat, recite salat and give zakat, zakat means every sort of zakat. It can be sadaqah, charity, khums, zakat, or anything that comes under that. Whatever you're giving in the way of Allah is zakat. And zakat, by the way, it comes from becoming pure. So once you give in the way of Allah, you become pure. So the aim is for the person to become pure. So the philosophy behind this is that if you do something for Allah, Allah will do something for you. And what comes from Allah is maghfirah. So even if you do not have any sins on you, your stages will be increased and elevated. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
गुजारिश है कि जुमला दस जारी है मोमिनात खुसूसन ध्यान रखें बराए करम दस के दौरान में बातचीत करें और अगर वो भी तो की आवाज में कीजिए बहुत शुक्रिया
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, this verse that I've just recited, you know who the misdaq of this verse is? This was revealed in the honor of Amir Momineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. He had 4 dirhams. 1 dirham he gave during the night. When people are sleeping, nobody knows. And Ali ibn Abi Talib and all of the rest of the Imam Masumin alayhi salam, during the dark, when it was really dark, when nobody would be able to see, everybody would be sleeping. Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, it is the sunnah of Ahlul Bayt. They would have a little bag full of food, and then they would go and give the charity to all of the people, irrelevant of who they are. Even if they are the followers, even to the enemies, they would go and give this charity, this food. But while I'm saying that even they would give it to the enemies, to the followers of Ahlul Bayt, one man, when he saw Amir Mu'mineen walking in the darkness of the night with the bag on his shoulder, he started following him. And he said that I wanted to protect Amir Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And then Amir Mu'mineen alayhi salam at a point stops. And he says, why are you following me? And Amir Mu'mineen alayhi salam, when asked this question, this guy replies, he says, Mawla, I'm here. You know, I was afraid because you've got enemies. I want to protect you. So he walked with Amir Momineen and he saw that the followers of Ali ibn Abi Talib Mawla, puts two of those, the bread that he had got in the bag, 2 piece loaves of bread for the Mu'mins, and those who were not the Mu'mins, he would give them one. So he gives to both. It's not like he denies those people who are the enemies of Amir Momineen. So during the night, Amir Momineen gives 1 dinar. During the day, he gives 1 dinar. And then 1 dinar when secretly, when nobody knew who Amir Momineen gave this dinar to, and 1 openly. And openly, like I said, zakat is also the Shari zakat that I'm talking about, right? That zakat, which is wajib upon all the people, who are farmers, they know when it becomes wajib. This zakat, you're required to give it openly to the people. While everyone is watching, that's when you give it to the poor. Why? Because there are so many of the revised tariqul zakat, somebody who does not give the zakat. Well, that's a different thing that a topic. But somebody who's a tariqul zakat, Allah does not like them. And I remember Ayatollah al-Uzma Iraqi. He was like about 100 years old, and I was in Qom and used to go and visit Ayatollah al-Uzma Iraqi, and he was so old he couldn't speak, and his son was as old as I am, with a white beard, and he would stand next to him, and when Agha would be speaking, he would translate what he's saying, but his memory was like crystal clear. It was a photographic memory. He used to remember everything. Allahu Akbar. Because that's what a marja is all about. I've seen this with my own eyes. I saw one man, a farmer, who came and he asked a question about zakat. And Allah replied, this is what it is. I think he was asking about the quantity of the grains, how much, when it becomes wajib. And now this man asks the reason. And he says, why are you saying that at this? Have you got any proof? And he says, well, it's the hadith of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Allahumma sallam. And then he says, do you remember you came to me 3.5 years ago? He didn't say 3 years ago, 2 years ago. He said 3.5 years ago you came to me. You asked the same question, to which I gave the same reply. And then you asked me for the proof. And I told you it's a such and such book, page number such and such. And on the right hand corner, on the top, you'll find this hadith of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Now, a marja is someone who meets hundreds of people every single day. And now he remembers, he says, that's how his memory was. So, zakat is something which is a title, and all people should give this. But sometimes when you're required, when you're supposed to give charity secretly. But if sometimes people do it for themselves, they're not doing it for Allah. So if nobody finds out, they don't want to do it. So what they do is, even if somebody comes to them and a Mu'min brother comes and he says, I'm stuck, I'm going through hard times, can you help me out? Okay, I'll help you. And he gives him the money. And then what he does is, later on, he keeps on nagging him about that. Do you remember that day you came to me and I gave you this money? Even if he does that once. We have a hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Salawat Muhammad. And this hadith is in Wasail Shia. Rasulullah says, Man asda ila mu'min ma'rufan thumma adahu bil kalam aw manna alayhi faqad abtala Allahu sadaqah. He says, when someone goes to a brother mu'min and he tells him, reminds him of this thing, that remember I gave you this money. So what happens is this good deed that he had done, Allah makes it void. It's gone. It's evaporated. As if he had done nothing. And then once he keeps on repeating it, that turns into a sin. The first time it does it, according to this hadith, his good deed is gone. The second time he starts doing it, it becomes a sin. because the first time it's gone. So why are you nagging him? If you did it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, well, you, in fact, look at it that way. That moment, brother, did you a favor. So you earned something for hereafter, for the day of the judgment. When you would be there, there won't be any currency or anything of that sort. It's only going to be the deeds that you have, right? So that, brother, moment gave you the opportunity to do something good that you would benefit in your afterlife. And this life, for that is just temporary, and the permanent life is hereafter. So in fact, we should thank, but who thinks that way? I don't know. But that's the spirit of Islam. That's what Shia Islam teaches us. And then just with this, I'll just finish up. وَأَعْلَمْ, and you should know, أَنَّ نَفَقَتَكَ عَلَى نَفْسِكَ وَعِيَالِكَ صَدَقَةً. Whatever you earn, right? The money that you spend on yourself and on your family, that is also sadaqah. That's also charity. Now, people think in our part of the world, sadaqah is something like when someone is sick or someone is going through a hard time, he gives sadaqah. So he thinks that all of these problems that I have, whoever has taken the sadaqah, these problems are passed on to him. So when people find out, oh, this guy's giving me a sadaqah, it's such a low thing, it's such a petty thing. He did that to me, and now I'm gonna be. It's kind of like being jinxed, right? So the curse is now on me. That's not the philosophy of sadaqah. Sadaqah is you're doing something for Allah, right? You're doing a favor to someone for Allah, and now in return, Allah is gonna reward you with what? With this. That Amir Momineen alayhi salam says that if you give sadaqah, Allah relieves you of 70 hardships that you were in. If you had 70 issues, if you go to Iran, if you travel to Iran, these days it's not there, but in our days we used to see that there were boxes right at the entrance of the toll of the highways, and there was little boxes that used to say sadaqah, and there was a hadith of Amir Momineen alayhi salam written on it that if you give a sadaqah, one sadaqah amounts to 7. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will relieve you of 70 of your hardships. So that means that if you were going on a highway, there might have been an accident. Your son might have become sick because you might have walked one step that side where there were germs. And then that, so many other things that you can think of. So this hadith exists there. So sadaqah is not something that you think is like a curse that you're going to pass on to someone. No. Right? And then it says, Allah says, وَإِيَالِكَ صَدَقَةً وَالْكَعْدَ عَلَى إِيَالِهِ مِنْ حِلِّ كَالْمُجَاهِدِ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. No, this is the, sorry, this is not the verse, this is the hadith in Mustadrak al-Wasail, and also Wasail al-Shia and Bihar al-Anwar. You know what Masoom says? Masoom says that this is also sadaqah, whatever you spend on yourself, but once you work hard, right? You're doing a job or you're doing a business, and then you earn that money, and you bring it for your family. You give it to your kids and your wife and your kids. Allah says it is like doing the jihad in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that also is a charity. Sometimes we see that in our families, when someone, you work so hard day and night, and then you want to not spend the money for your kids. Well, maybe your kids want some little things, a game or something, but then you say, no, I'm not going to give it to you. You don't know. Allah is giving you this risk maybe because of that little 4-year-old that you got in your house, or that 4-year-old daughter or son, or your wife. You might have worked for 10 days and you would not have been able to get this. You might have, wanted to earn this money, but Allah wouldn't have given it to you. But He's giving it to you because of your kids, and you deny them of that money. Then what happens is Allah stops the risk from you. I'm just giving you, the juice of the riwayats. If you stop, your money from going to your kids, and you're harsh on your kids, Allah will stop it. Because Allah says, I was giving it to you because of your 4-year-old kid, for example, and you're not giving it to him, so why should I give it to you? But if you pass it on, even if it's a little amount, right? then Allah becomes very happy. And also remember this: once you make a promise with your child, it is wajib to fulfill that promise. If you say, for example, I'm going to buy you a candy if you go to school tomorrow, right? If you're on time, you get on time, I'm going to give you a candy. And then next day you don't give a candy, it's haram. It's haram and it's a sin. Salawat wa Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So I hope I've made all the kids happy today. So now you're going to ask me questions, yes or no? The parents are not very happy, yeah. But the kids are very happy, mashallah. Yeah, Mustafa, you're happy? You want to ask a question? No? How about you? Okay? Can you give? Very good.
What is zakat?
Sorry?
What is zakat?
Zakat is charity. When you're giving something to help out the poor people, right? Have you seen people like homeless people? They beg for money and they say, give us some money, we don't have money. You give them that money, that's zakat. You get it?
So if your parents gave you 2 chocolate bars and you shared one of them with a friend who wanted the chocolate, didn't have it, and you gave it to them, that's zakat. Yeah.
Anyone else? Yeah? You got a question? You're shaking your head?
Today I was
The mic. Sorry.
today I was hearing something on social media. The person was saying that the zakat of knowledge or aql is that you live with the people, unbearable people. Is that true?
But if it's a hadith,
It's
his-
explaining something like that. The zakat of knowledge or your aql is like you live with a person who's
I can think of a hadith. The zakat of aql is knowledge. That's the hadith from Amir Momineen of Milton. No, I don't know what it is.
Mentioning that if you're living with a person who's harming you, like not respecting you.
No.
but you're
If somebody is harming you, why should you live with him? No, I don't think Ahlul Bayt. I've never heard of such a hadith. If someone is harming you, live with him. Why? I don't know. It's not a hadith. Anyone else? Yes. Zain wants to ask a question. It's zakat. I'll tell you what. Zakat is a title, right? Khums is also. Have you heard of zakat? Like once you zakat in the Shias, and there's zakat of the Sunnis. What do the Sunnis do? They say that 2% of your earnings, whatever that is, 2% is zakat. What we say is 2%. It's not 2%. Khums is also zakat. Zakat is just a title, right? That's the khums, that which is 20% of your earnings, of your savings. You give 20%. 10% for Sahm Imam, and 10% is Sahm Sadat. So give it to the Sayyid. Sahm Imam, you give it to the Marja or his Wakil or someone who's got the permission, Ijaza, for example, right? You can give it to them. That's khums. And now come to the word zakat, which is istilahan, like in Islamic terminology, zakat, which is like on crops. Shias don't pay zakat on the money. If you're a farmer, right, and you've got a yield of crops of if you've got crops of wheat, then zakat becomes wajib on a certain quantity, not if it's just a little bit, right? And not on wheat, for example. It's on raisins. There's certain things that are there, and also on animals. Like if you've got, like you're doing goat farming, it can be on goat and sheep and cows. So that's zakat for the Shias, right? Now, like I said, zakat is a title. So that zakat is also zakat. Khums is also zakat. Sadaqah is also zakat. The charity that you give is also zakat. So all of that comes under the title of zakat. That's why Allah says, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا zakat. Give zakat, give zakat. So that's like give khums, give sadaqah, give charity, right? Salawat Muhammad. یہ ہاں
فطرے کی اماؤنٹ اگر آپ اناؤنس کر دیں تو جن کو بیک ہوم بھیجنا ہو مزید بھیج سکیں.
فطرے کی اماؤنٹ میں وہ اپنے رضوی صاحب جو رکھیں گے نا وہی رکھوں گا, کیونکہ وہ پتہ کیا ہوتا ہے کیلکولیٹ جب آپ کرتے ہیں نا فطرے کی اماؤنٹ تو لوگ کہتے ہیں یار انہوں نے تو اتنا ڈالر رکھا تھا, آپ نے اتنا کر دیا, آپ نے کم کر دیا, آپ نے زیادہ کر دیا. تو میں نے یہی سوچا ہے کہ جو ہے نا جو رضوی صاحب اناؤنس کریں گے وہی پھر فطرہ ہوگا. ٹھیک ہے, صلوات محمد وعلی محمد. ویسے توضیح المسائل کے اندر لکھا ہوا ہے ایگزیکٹلی, سمجھ رہے ہیں, وہ 3 سیر 3 کلو وغیرہ سارا کچھ وہ توضیح المسائل کے اندر موجود ہے, تو آپ خود کیلکولیٹ کر سکتے ہیں اس سے. لیکن میں کہہ رہا ہوں میں نہیں کروں گا. کیوں نہیں کروں گا؟ وہ رضوی صاحب کا جو آئے گا بس ٹھیک ہے, اس کے اوپر کوئی چونچرا نہیں کرے گا. فطرہ بھی زکوٰۃ ہے, اسرا, لیکن ہے اس کا نام فطرانہ ہے, لیکن وہ بھی زکوٰۃ ہی ہے, اس ٹائٹل کے اندر آ جائے گی. بہتر یہی ہے, بہتر یہی ہے کہ جدھر آپ ہیں ادھر اگر کوئی ضرورت مند ہے تو ان کو دیں. پچھلے سال ہوا تھا, ایک وہ صاحب تھے, وہ بیچارے کو پتہ نہیں کیا کر رہے تھے, ان کی والدہ اور وہ لڑکا اکیلے تھے اور وہ رہ رہے تھے ادھر بریڈ فورڈ والی سائڈ پہ. تو میرے کزن نے بتایا تھا, ہم لوگوں نے اس کو پھر وہ ہیلپ آؤٹ کیا تھا, اس پتہ نہیں کتنے کو $700-800 کے بنے تھے. تو یہاں پر دینا واقعی آپ کی بات صحیح, روایات کے حساب سے جہاں پہلے ہیں ادھر آپ دیکھیں گے ضرورت مند آپ کے جو مومنین ہیں ان کے اندر, وہ کدھر جائیں گے پھر. اس کا فلسفہ یہ ہے کہ اگر ادھر والوں کی آپ نے ہیلپ نہیں کی تو ان کے وہ دوسرے والے تو نہیں آگے کریں گے نا.
ایک اور سوال آ گیا, لیکن آپ کے اگر غریب رشتہ دار ہیں سید اور غیر سید, آپ ان کو بس پریفرنس دیں گے یا یہاں رہ رہے ہیں؟
یہ اب آپ کو ڈیپینڈ کرتا ہے, دونوں کی ضرورت دیکھ لیں نا کہ کیسا ہے, اور واقعی رشتہ دار جو ان کا زیادہ حق ہے آپ کے اوپر درست ہے تو ان کو آپ بھیجنا چاہتے ہیں بھیجیں, ویسے تو آپ کو آزاد ہیں جس کو بھیجیں. لیکن ایک بات یاد رکھیں, فطرہ دینے کے لیے یہ فطرہ میں بہت سختی ہے. آپ کو یہ معلوم ہونا چاہیے جس کو آپ بھیج رہے ہیں, اگر وہ صاحب فقط شیعہ ہونا کافی نہیں ہے, وہ دیندار ہوں, ظاہراً عرفاً ان کو دیندار سمجھا جائے. مثال کے طور پر مرد ہیں, ان کے چہرے پہ داڑھی نہیں ہے, آپ نہیں دے سکتے ان کو. وہ ظاہراً نماز نہیں پڑھتے, آپ ان کو نہیں دے سکتے. صحیح ہے, وہ نماز پڑھتے, نماز صوم و صلات کے پابند ہیں, سب کچھ ہے, پھر یہ آپ لے لیں, آپ پھر آپ دیتے ان کو. صحیح ہے, ورنہ نہیں دے سکتے, ورنہ آپ کو ہوگا ہی نہیں فطرہ. اور فطرہ نہیں دیا تو روزے واجب جو ہے وہ قبول نہیں ہوں گے, قبولیت ان سے ہوتی ہے. اور کوئی سوال؟ بر محمد والے ہاں ہے سوال؟ صلوات و محمد والے صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم. پڑھا دیں زیارت یا علی متوجہ زیارت. السلام علیکہ یا نبی اللہ, السلام علیکہ یا رسول اللہ, السلام علیکہ یا حبیب اللہ, السلام علیکہ یا محمد المصطفیٰ, السلام علیکہ یا ابی الزہراء, السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ, السلام علیکہ یا ابا عبد اللہ وعلی الارواح التي حلت بفنائک, السلام علی الحسین وعلی علی ابن الحسین وعلی اولاد الحسین وعلی اصحاب الحسین, السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکہ یا غریب الغرباء یا معین الضعفاء والفقراء یا انیس النفوس یا شمس الشموس ایہا المدفون بارد توس, السلام علیکہ یا علی ابن موسیٰ الرضا واختک المعصومہ, السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکہ یا صاحب العصر والزمان, الامان 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 من فتنة الزمان, السلام علیکہ یا بقیت اللہ فی العالمین, روحی وارواح العالمین لتراب مقدمک الفدا بأبی انت و امی یا بقیت اللہ, وعجل اللہ تعالی فرجک وسهل اللہ مخرجک وظہورک وجعلنا من اعوانک وانصارک ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ.